My wife didn't really care for me when I was intoxicated. I wouldn't have the best memory when I was drinking the night before, and that was embarrassing. I was heavy. I stunk. All these things were just like not really taking care of myself. And it also bled into work.
Welcome to The Mindful Agent, where real estate success meets health, mindfulness, and personal growth. Join me, Michael Coxen, top performing agent and broker owner of Magenta Real Estate, as I explore the intersection of wellness and business excellence, helping you thrive in both real estate and life. I'm sitting down today with someone whose journey embodies transformation, both in business and in life. Mike Roland, founder and owner of the Roland team, is a Las Vegas real estate leader who oversees around 200 transactions per year. He's a dedicated husband and a father to his son Titan, with another son, Tucker, on the way. But beyond the titles and transactions, Mike's story is one of discipline, resilience, and accountability. 5 years ago, he made the decision to give up drinking, a shift that not only reshaped his body, shedding over 100 pounds from his former 350-pound frame, but also transformed his mindset, his business, and his role as a husband and father. In this episode, we explore what he calls manufactured chaos, how intentionally creating discomfort in your routine can build resilience. This topic really made me think. We also explore Mike's perspective on finding meaning in the mundane, the power of showing up and putting in the work daily, and why he believes accountability is the ultimate game changer in both personal growth and business success. And frankly, I couldn't agree more. Mike's journey is proof that change is possible, no matter where you start. So let's dive in. All right, Mike Roland, welcome to The Mindful Agent.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's nice to meet you in person. I was telling you earlier, I've been following you on social media. You're definitely a motivating guy. Here in The Mindful Agent, we try to talk with real estate agents who have, a mindfulness practice, a wellness practice. For those listening, you might want to tune into YouTube because Mike Roland's a big guy. According to his social media bio, he's a lifter of heavy things, and that's very relevant or prevalent. I can see it right in front of me. Is that your main wellness routine? Is lifting heavy weights?
Yeah. I think that's, the primary kind of, I would say, as far as my routine goes, is just lifting weights. In the morning, though, I do have like a nice routine. It's been a little more difficult as of late. We were talking earlier. I have a 3-year-old or almost 3-year-old next week. And then we're expecting our second child in about 3 weeks. So like that's been kind of just upended. But yeah, typically, I will wake up, I'll do my 5-minute journal. It's great. Kind of just my daily gratitudes.
What's a 5-minute journal?
Yeah, it's really cool. You can find it on Amazon. I've probably gone through about 7 or 8 of these at this point. But like it's about a year's worth, and it will literally tell you like things to be grateful for. What do you plan on doing this day? It's just like literally 5 minutes, and you just jot down, and then you can compartmentalize it from the morning and then at night when you're reflecting on your day too.
Okay.
I am not that organized. I just do it all in the morning, or else I won't do it at night. But it's really cool because it really does just like, it centers you, especially when it's quiet before things get going, and you just can think and reflect on what you can be grateful for. And I try not to repeat myself, which I think is key. Once you've gone through the things that you're always grateful for, like we're all grateful for health, family, businesses, whatever. But once you've covered that and you realize that you can't repeat it, you really have to start searching. And then you can really start being granular with everything that you're grateful for, and things that we may take for granted, which is everything from, having options in the cereal aisle, as far as, or just, having clean clothes, just things that we may take for granted. And when you're slowed down and you have to think about it, it really does like make you feel really grateful about what you do have.
That's an awesome practice. And to test yourself to go deeper. I really like that. I try to do something similar. I mean, I do repeat myself, but if I go my health, which I am very grateful for, I kind of ask like, what about it specifically? That maybe my knees don't hurt. I'm grateful for my toes. I'm grateful for my sense of smell, and get real granular. How has that changed your mindset on life?
Just overall, it just like gives me that approach for that morning. Just like, man, you can feel sorry for yourself. Like everyone can be bummed. Like this market, the past 12 months, for example, has been tough probably for most real estate agents comparatively to the previous years.
Sure.
And you could really, if you wanted to, just focus on that, right? Just like, man, it's really hard to get business going, or man, that buyer stopped returning my phone calls, or my listing canceled, or you can go through it, right? We all can. But instead, again, if you are focused and you're forced to almost sit there and just be grateful, you can really just like stop and think like, it's not that bad. Like I've got it good compared to other people and other things at the end of the day, and just be grateful for what you have. And I have always done this, like up until I started doing this practice, was I took everything for granted, like for everything. I just almost felt like almost entitled, like I should have these things. And the reality is not everyone has these things. And who the hell am I to expect these things? Like everything from air conditioning, to being able to, like a comfy pillow, just all of these things. Like not everyone has these things. And it's really important to have that perspective. And again, if you're forced to really think about it, you may realize it. And your approach is that much better to that. Every day is that much better.
So true, right? Losing a listing is, nothing compared to not having a bed to sleep in tonight, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Sometimes losing a listing, I try to remind myself is something to be grateful for, because no one knows what the future holds, and that listing could have led to further trouble. That's a mindset I try to have: is whenever something bad happens, how do I know it was bad?
Yeah, nailed it. I try to tell my agents that too. Sometimes they have, especially if you're newer and like, you're grinding, you're making your phone calls, and you finally, I wouldn't say convinced, but you have somebody that is willing to work with you, and you're just pumped. And then maybe you have to, after like a couple of weeks or a month, you realize like this isn't a good fit. Maybe they're not realistic. Maybe they're mean. All of these things, right? And it's like they don't want to let it go because it's like, they work so hard for that escrow or for that listing. But what it's doing to them mentally, just like physically as well, sometimes it's not worth it. And if they just learn to let it go and take that time that you would have been servicing that buyer or that listing and make sure you're productive with it, just don't sit on your hands, go after, get back on the phones and find another listing. It's that much easier, but it's that scarcity mentality. And again, going back to what the markets look like, volume is down considerably, so there's not much to be had. So when you get one, you desperately want to hold on to it. But if it's at the sake of your peace of mind and just like your mental game, yeah, sometimes you just got to learn to let it go.
Yeah, and the energy of desperation is a negative one that's felt by you and your client. And the next phone call you make versus that abundance mindset of there's always another client, there's always another listing for me. Yeah, I mean, what you're putting out there comes back to you.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me more. What else do you teach your agents, and tell us about your team?
Yeah. So we are the Roland team. There's about 15 of us. We'll do on average between 150 to 200 transactions a year. This year, probably on the lower end, just because we're kind of rebuilding. Some of my teammates, obviously, and this is one of the things when you build up a team, right? Eventually, it goes one or two ways when you bring an agent on. Either one, the agent's no good, it's not working out, and you can almost mutually agree, or one party agrees, like, let's go a different direction. The other side is you build up a really good agent, and eventually the agent becomes so good that they don't want to work under the umbrella of a team anymore. They want to go solo. So that's what I've been experiencing the past like 12 months. This year is like really the reshaping, the regrowth of our team, which I'm really excited about. On one hand, I'm exhausted because I'm having to restart almost everything, but I'm also very grateful because like I've got perspective I didn't have when I did it the first time. I know exactly what to look out for. I know exactly what works and what didn't work. And so we're in a really good spot right now. Like everyone's just feeling good. And like that was another thing too for my previous team. Like a lot of times, like the attitude was they weren't exactly jazzed up. They were kind of burnt out almost. That's not the case now. Most of my team, they've been with me less than 12 months. Some of them are newer to the industry, but like they're just so excited. And I remember feeling like that when I was an agent. And it's just nice because it's like, I don't know, it's invigorating to be around. It feels great. So that's where we're at now. We're just building. We are one of the 6 teams in town that have partnered with Zillow. We have a Zillow Flex account. And so that's been that's pretty fun. It's exhausting in its own right, but it's great to be partnered with Zillow. Zillow's the Amazon of real estate. Everyone goes there to start their search. So that's really neat. We lean in heavily on tech, very organized in our CRM. We use a lot of artificial intelligence, but overall it's just people hungry, wanting to work, wanting to get in front of buyers and sellers.
Who's your avatar as far as agent? What are you looking for? You mentioned enthusiasm.
Yep.
What does it take to be on your team?
I'm going to steal this from my buddy Chris. He says the 3 C's. It's culture, coachability, and character. Those are the 3 that we look for. It's just culture is obviously, are you going to fit in with the vibe of the team? Character is like, are you showing up positive or negative? And then coachability, like, are you actually going to listen and learn? Sometimes you have people that like think they know better, even if they've never sold a house. There's a lot of stubborn people in this game. It's weird. I would think that if I didn't sell a house, or if I'm selling 1 or 2, like I probably got some stuff to learn. So I would just probably be quiet and be more eager to learn.
You're also looking for humility.
Correct. Yeah. I tie that into maybe all 3, but like definitely coachability and character. But you are right. Yeah. Humility is definitely important when you're looking for an agent.
Can you take us back to when and how you decided to get into real estate?
Yeah. So I just kind of lucked. I mean, I'd like to tell you that I knew when I was a baby that I was going to grow up and run a real estate company.
If you have a baby out there that wants to be a real estate agent, you have an odd problem. I don't know how to get you help, but seek help.
You messed up. No, I agree. When I like in high school, I mean, like did the whole school thing, right? But my goal was always to be a football player. And that was my thing, like captain of the football team. I took a full ride scholarship to Fresno State.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I got
Were you there with the Devontae Adams and Derek Carr days?
I just after, like
Okay.
Derek Carr left. I'm sorry, David Carr, his brother, and then I was there for a year and a half, and then Derek came after. So I was sandwiched between the Carr brothers, so I didn't get to meet him. But there were some players that made it to the league quite a bit, but they weren't like the big all stars. They were just like offensive linemen. But it was great. Like it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it out there, but I was homesick. So after like 2 years, I said I want to come home. I transferred to UNLV. That was a mistake. Just different type of programs. And at that point, I think I was just burnt out. So I had to sit out a year because I transferred. I ended up hurting my knee. And then that was that. Just didn't feel like doing it anymore.
Okay.
And then being in Vegas, got into the nightlife industry. I started as a bouncer, found out where the money was at, got behind the bar, worked as a bartender. And then at the age of 30, when me and my wife started to get really serious, decided, hey, I'm just going to pump the brakes. I'm sick and tired of coming home at 3 or 4 in the morning, reeking of cigarette smoke, drinking with everybody. And so decided to pivot. And we had bought a house along the way because I'd saved some money with tips. And we were able to we needed to sell that home in order to be able to make it. So we sold the house. I sold my truck. We carpooled. My wife would drive me, or I would drive her to, because she was holding it down back then, to her job. And then I'd go and do my real estate stuff. And then I'd come back. But it was stressful. We did that for about 2 years. Thankfully, we had a little bit of proceeds to keep afloat while I was trying this real estate thing.
Yeah.
And then eventually it started to take off. But yeah, we sold the house, we sold everything, went on in on real estate.
Before we go further, you mentioned something you kind of touched upon, like this pivot moment.
Yeah.
What happened? Because there's always something. Like, I know it's probably a lot of little things led to that moment, but what was that? Hey, I'm doing this. What came inside you that just fully made you and your wife go all in on switching careers and going into real estate?
I think like I was kind of just floating for a while. Like I did the whole football thing and I always thought my life would be destined for greatness, but it would be like athletic, right? And then that ship sailed. And then like for a decade in my 20s to 30s, when everyone's having fun, I was having fun, but like I was floating. I was just drinking, partying too much, making decent money behind the bar before I knew what decent money was. And then I think I don't know, I'd like to tell you that there was one day I woke up and I was sick of it. They actually fired me. If they didn't fire me, I probably may still be there, you know what I mean? Or advance to where I'd be a general manager of a restaurant or bar. And like this thought of that now is like, oh God.
Well,
Gosh.
think about what we said earlier. I didn't get the listing.
Yeah, exactly.
I got fired. Poor me. Well, if you ever got fired, you wouldn't be who you are today.
That's right.
So there's something to be grateful for.
Yeah. It's a funny story too about that. Like, so they fired me. They kicked, and then so I was basically forced to get into real estate. And then I'd come home. I tell the story a lot, but like I was doing rentals just to get by, making a couple $100, but just really running and grinding. And I used to come home to my wife, and I'd have to convince her, like, I promise you, I'm going to be good at this. I promise. And then after about a year and a half, like the checks started becoming consistent, and I proved to her that I was going to be good at this. It worked out, but it didn't happen overnight. And then the last part too, and again, this is just a humble brag, but so I got fired from that place. It's called Stoney's. It's a country bar.
Sure. Classic institution of Las Vegas.
For sure. Yeah, the class, yes. A billboard went up with me and Steve Hawks. He does the billboards out here. He's at my brokerage, one of my best friends, and I was on it. So like I went from getting fired to like 4 years later, being in that parking lot on a billboard, looking down at him. So I mean, like again, it was more not exactly humble, but it was like, man, I feel good about that. I since pulled down the billboard, but it was still kind of a cool story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
To look down where you once were, and at the guy that fired you, he had to see your face every single day.
That's right. That's
nothing wrong with that. That's your competitive spirit in you, which is
Yeah.
what it takes to be, in real estate. I feel, a lot of the best real estate agents I know did play sports, have some sort of competitive edge or at least that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
How does your athletics translate into your success as an agent?
Oh, you nailed it too. I look for that whenever I'm interviewing agents, like a sports background, military. That's always something like they just have that drive. And then, if you're used to in sports, you're just used to practice, like mastering the mundane, the boring stuff, but doing it over and over and over again until we get really good at it. If you don't have that background, it's a little challenging. Sometimes convincing people, like, you got to make your calls and you got to call the same person over and over until they answer. And they're like, well, I called them yesterday and I called them today. They're not interested. I'm like, no. It's not how it works. You got to call them like 7 to 13 times. And they just don't understand that. So athletes, they already get it. And they understand too, like, you don't have to hit a home run every time. Sometimes singles, doubles work, but just keep showing up, keep practicing, and you'll get better. So I just think that never quit mentality just flows really well from athletics into real estate.
That's excellent advice. Fall in love with the process, right? What position did you play in football?
Was defensive end.
Defensive end, right? I mean, hand techniques, very basic stuff, repeated over and over and over again. And yeah, you're not always going to get to the quarterback, but you might disrupt the play.
That's right.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, it's something, that's why I'm so big on sports, with the children in my life and people in my life because of that. I love that you said mastering the mundane. Think about people in batting practice. I mean, how many balls does, Aaron Judge hit in practice? I don't even know. Thousands to try to get that one home run during the game. And I think you have to be in love with the process. You got to be in love with practice. You got to go for no, which is a great book. I'll recommend to you about just instead of trying to get that one listing appointment, if you start hitting the phones and you get a listing appointment on the first call, you think you're great. It was probably a mistake and a bit of luck, right? And then you stop calling for the day. I got my appointment, I'm done. Where this book tells you have a goal to be rejected a certain number of times. Go for no 50 times. So if you get that first call, you're like, well, I didn't hit my goal. My goal wasn't a listing appointment. It was to get rejected 50 times. So I got to make 50 more phone calls and maybe get rejected.
I love that. I tell my team all the time, my second favorite answer is no. Like, obviously we all like that. Yes. But a lot of times, like, leads or, people you're trying to call and contact, they don't answer the phone. And like, that's not going to work for me. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be some resolution here. You're either going to buy with me or you're going to tell me to F off. I'll take that. But like the silence part, that's not going to work. So either yes or no. So no is my second favorite answer.
Okay. I like it. That means, yeah. So that drives you to make more calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a consistent message here, for listeners of the podcast that the most successful people have that mindset to go for no. You mentioned your morning routine earlier. Huge morning person. Another one of my favorite books is The Miracle Morning.
Mm-hmm.
Hal Elrod. Yeah. Almost every successful real estate agent has read it.
Mm-hmm.
What other habits have you formed in your day? So you do your gratitude journal. Walk me through other business type habits that you do every single day.
So that's probably, honestly, as far as my day-to-day habits that are like non-negotiable, it would be like my routine where the morning gratitude, and then hit the gym. As far as like things that work for me that I'm pretty rigid, it would be just my diet. I find the best success for me has been tracking macros. So I have this guy I've been working with for like 4 years. His name's Ty. And he literally tells me every week what macros to hit. And it's pretty simple, instead of like some rigid diet where I have to eat chicken and rice. You got to hit these numbers, certain amount of grams for protein, fat, and carbs. So like you can have a really flexible diet. You can eat whenever too. I can load up and starve myself all morning and eat it at nighttime, whatever you want to do. So it works for anybody's schedule. And it almost like gamifies it because I put everything on an app, MyFitnessPal. And so it just tracks everything to where, like, as a competitor, just like in your CRM, you start to see, you like to put things in, plug it, and you start to see the results. Same exact thing. So that's been kind of like habit that I do. It's just adhering to, the macros that are set forth by my coach, and then just making sure I'm tracking all of it. That helps. And it's the weirdest thing too. When I'm winning with my diet, I'm winning in every other area. When I'm struggling with my diet and I'm not hitting the numbers or I'm not tracking it, usually that means something is off. Like either me and my wife are arguing or business isn't going that well. It's just interesting how like one thing leads to the next.
And it sounds like you're in love with the process of tracking. You're not talking about the results or how big you got or what you weigh. You focus on the macros.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Interesting. And yeah, how does one bleed into the other? So if business isn't good, you slip on your diet. And maybe you're a little irritable at home.
Mentally, it's weird. I'm weird like that. Like I don't know if this is for everybody. For me, it has been. Like if I'm not doing something right in one way, it just trickles into all areas. And when I'm just going strong, like everything's cohesive. I don't know. I'm weird like that. Like if I don't get my workout in, like in the morning, I give myself permission to cheat on my macros, or like to maybe leave work early or not make my calls. Like all of these things, it's It's fascinating. I need like a therapist or something, but like it's weird because I'm just
No.
it's weird like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, therapy certainly helps, but I mean, I think it's also just, it's been proven, especially with exercise, right? You know, you just feel better. Endorphins are firing, you get the dopamine hit. You're more energized. You're willing to get rejected a little bit. You know, you just went through a painful session. A few
Mhm.
hangups means nothing, but when you're kind of weak and tired and no energy, and someone says no, you go, okay. You
Yep.
roll over a bit more.
I call it manufactured chaos. You nailed it. Like you're introduced a little bit of hectic, a little bit of chaos, a little bit of misery in your morning. And when you do that through, sweating or working out or lifting heavy weights, to your point, like if I was to go to the office and somebody yells at me, I think I'll be okay.
How has your whole routine evolved to what it is today?
So not so like now I kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Like I'm a little bit more during my off season, I guess you'd say is, I don't really focus on the cardio aspect. I used to go off the reserve, like again, if my coach says you need to do this and this, like I'd always throw in an extra cardio, and then I realized like that's detrimental to long term because the reason is you're removing that piece so that it's more effective when you reintroduce it later. So just being consistent, it's always lifting weights, it's always resistance training. If I have time, I'll throw in cardio. And then we talked earlier about reading. One thing that I do is I read while I'm on the treadmill, and I'm not like running, I'm not sprinting.
Mhm.
It's just like a slight incline and like a steady brisk walk.
Mhm.
So you can do both, and that's really healthy. By the time already running releases endorphins. To your point, it's like kind of clears the cobwebs. But when you're
Mm.
reading something too, either to self help or real estate, man, you feel so good. You feel like you
Yeah.
retained everything. It's just great, and like that's the best part of like starting the day. I mean, working out's great for the muscles, but cardio's for the mind.
It's a killer combination. Yeah, I'm a podcast guy when I lift weights, there's a lot of time in between sets. You're supposed to rest, whatever, 60, 90, 120 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of sitting there staring at my phone on Instagram or staring into space, I love to be listening to something I can get better and learning. It was funny, just the past 2 days, my AirPods died and I forgot to charge them.
Mm.
So I worked out at the gym without any sort of podcast. And I was like, okay, I felt almost like I'm wasting time. I don't have, and then I took a deep breath and I said, this is a meditation for me to just be present in the gym and hear the sounds. And I turned, my rest between sets into meditations of just being present in the moment. Cause I'm like you, I got to be doubling down on, I can't just be at the gym doing nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great place to, talk to people, get back to that. Everyone's around the gym with headphones on, which, is I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. People forget to talk to each other.
I was going to mention that part. Like, yeah, at least, when your headphones are off, like you're more approachable. People will come up and talk to you, which isn't a bad thing. Like, it's nice to kind of just chat with people,
Yeah.
like-minded individuals who are also there trying to improve their body or health.
I am not afraid to talk to somebody about what they're doing at the gym because I mean I've been lifting weights on and off my whole life. I was a football player, believe it or not, quarterback, not a
Nice.
D end. So I mean I've had my moments. I've definitely had my downs and ups in my fitness journey. But like I am humble enough to know there's guys in there that know what they're doing more than me, or I'll see somebody doing an exercise I haven't seen before, and just going to have that human connection. Like, hey, you mind telling me what's this for and why you do it? Like it's always being a student. So whether you're reading a book, a podcast, or talking to somebody, I feel like you and I have that same mindset of just always being a student, always having a growth mindset. Have you always lifted weights like your whole life? I know you said you were drinking a lot.
Mhm.
Like, did you stay fit during that period of your 20s when you were out partying and bartending?
Yeah, I wish I could say I did. I did not. So
Okay,
like
you're human.
so I did the football thing, all through college, and then when I got out, I kept eating like a defensive lineman, but I stopped working out like one. And then of course the drinking came in, and the late night hours, my shifts were like, I'd sleep during the daytime, so I wasn't getting any vitamin D. And then that obviously led into something pretty gnarly. I was about 350. This was like right when COVID hit. I was 350 pounds. I'm a 6'5" too. So like, that's, obviously I'm a large guy. But 350 pounds, I think on anybody is not the most flattering. And so I say this all the time, but if you go back and you listen to some of when I got into real estate, some of the, I used to do open house videos and I do like the whole tour.
Yeah.
And like without a doubt, every time if it had stairs, like I'd be wheezing like halfway, like
You could hear it.
oh yeah, like looking back on it now, it's like pretty humiliating, but that was a big thing that stuck out. Like, man, you can't even do an open house without getting winded if there's 2 stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot to do with drinking, and then everything else, just like I mentioned earlier, if like my diet's not in line, everything else falls off. I've always been that way. So yeah, drinking too much, no vitamin D, not active, ballooned up. And then when I was about 30, right around maybe no, I'd say a little bit later than that, but when COVID was announced, that's when I started to get really serious again.
Okay.
Because it was
Yeah.
killing people. I mean, like it was like one of those things where I was like, especially the heavier people,
Mm.
and that was just eye opening. Like, okay, let's get it together. So, in spite of how difficult it was, because like my gym was no different. Like we had to wear masks. Like
Mhm.
we talk about the earbuds. Well, I mean, the whole thing now. I'm just like I can barely breathe. It's hot. But I did that for about 2 years in spite of it, because like I was hell bent and determined, and then I fell in love with it. And that's the main thing. Like you have to fall in love with it. And I actually enjoy going. It's like it's my hobby. But for the longest time, that wasn't the case. And you can build that for people out there that are struggling to go to the gym. Like just don't do what everyone tells you to do. Explore, play with it. Like see if meditation's your thing, Pilates, yoga, pickleball, resistance training. In my case, it's weightlifting. I like to do that, but it's not for everybody. But do something and then do it so much that eventually you fall in love with it, because that's what's going to stick. That's what's going to sustain.
That's wonderful advice. Well said, Mike. I mean, that's what it's all about. To quote my good friend Bruce Miller, if you're moving, you're grooving.
Mhm.
Whatever it is you choose to do.
That's right.
And yeah, I feel like it can be very intimidating to go into a gym. So, find a good gym, find a good trainer, find a good accountability partner, and do what you love. Because just like they say in work, it's not work if you love it.
That's right.
Great advice. So I want to go back to that moment you decided to give up drinking. What was that turning point?
A lot of things. My wife didn't really care for me when I was intoxicated. I wouldn't have the best memory when I was drinking the night before, and that was embarrassing. I was heavy. I stunk. All these things were just like not really taking care of myself. And it also bled into work. Like I would Friday night have a couple drinks. My phone would ring at 6:37. I'd let it go to voicemail. The next morning or next afternoon, because I'm waking up because I got a hangover, it was $1 million buyer. That when I called him back, they found somebody. So it was costing me business as well.
Mm.
So it just was everything. I started to look around. I'm like, man, what am I doing? What's the benefit of drinking? And I couldn't find a really good excuse. And I read this book called Alcohol Lied to Me, and it changes your perspective. It's almost like hypnotizing yourself on alcohol. So, you could do the Alcoholics Anonymous approach where you're basically throw your hands up. I'm powerless to alcohol. I can't even be around it. I can't drive by a bar. I have to change my how I get home now, like all these things. I refused that anything could have that type of power over me. So I took this approach, and it's worked for me. I haven't had a drink in almost 6 years in May. And it's just I've changed my perspective on it. And if you really look at alcohol and you really dive into it, you can dissect almost everything that you consider positive with it, and it's actually negative. Like all of these things, we look at it as a social lubricant, or that it relieves anxiety, but it causes anxiety. You know what I mean? As far as like weight gaining, I thought I was Mr. Cool when I was drinking. Like I thought I was so charming. My wife would tell me like, dude, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like you're laughing at yourself, and you're only around other drunk people that find it fascinating. But the reality is, like, if you were to watch that clear headed the next day, you'd be kind of embarrassed. Like she'd be a lot sweeter than that. But that's the reality. So every single illusion or thing that I told myself was a benefit to drinking, I was able to strip it away. And so anybody who might be struggling with that and just doesn't think AA is the approach, which I didn't either, but if it works for you, it works for you. Check out a different method and try those books. It's Alcohol Lied to Me, and there's another one like The Killer Clown, but it's by the same author. But I really enjoyed his approach, and it's the same approach of how you quit smoking as well. You're basically hypnotizing yourself in a sense, where it's just like it's not that you're powerless; it's that it's repulsive.
And you're deprogramming, it sounds like, these thoughts about the
Yep.
positives.
Yep.
And which are excuses.
That's all they are. Yeah. And then like alcohol stripped of like all the flavors, it's toxic. That's all it is. If you were to drink just straight alcohol, you're going to die. You know what I mean? But they have to add all this extra shit in it, make it pretty, make it smell good, make it taste good. But if it's just like actual what makes you buzzed and what everyone's chasing, it's straight poison. And yet we're just like glorifying it. I don't know if you've been catching this, but like the younger generation, they're not partaking in the alcohol. Like the numbers for alcohol indulging has gone way down.
Significant drop off.
And I wonder, I don't know if you have any, I think maybe because they have other options, you know what I mean? Like they have obviously weed and psychedelics are a little bit more popular than they used to be. But I also think that they're just getting keen to the idea that like alcohol is responsible for more deaths than meth, than fentanyl, than all of these things that we demonize. But yet for whatever reason in the West, we've decided it's socially acceptable.
Yeah, I think maybe the every generation, I believe, is smarter than the last. Sorry, mom and dad. But it's because of mom and dad. You learn, you see lessons, perhaps negative lessons regarding alcohol and how that affects a parent, grandparent. I'm of Irish descent. I come from a long line of alcoholics. I do still drink, but I'm extremely moderate compared to my prior generations, very conscious of it. I think everything you're saying is valid. So I drink less than my dad, who drank less than his dad, who drank less than his dad. And now I just think one more generation is drinking less than their parents. And I think that's just growth. I think it's natural. And sure, maybe they're finding other things to, intoxicate themselves, but I think they're also more informed, more educated. The studies about alcohol and how it affects you and how it's poison, all that is prevalent. Where, yeah, 30, 40 years ago, it looked cool. It was advertised as fun. There wasn't like information. Sure, it existed, but a kid wasn't going to the library to read about alcoholism. Now it's in their TikTok, it's in their Instagram, like the negative effects of it.
Yep.
They're informed.
Yeah, and to your point too, like the advertisement, you saw this with smoking about a decade, maybe two ago, like where smoking was cool. Like,
Camel Joe,
that's right,
Marlboro Man.
Yeah, you were cool if you were the cool guy if you were smoking with your sunglasses on and just top down in your Corvette. Now it's like, dude, you smoke, you're lame.
Yeah, I fell for it. I used to be a smoker, so I mean that was a tough addiction. So I relate to that. Kicking that was really hard. And it becomes a lifestyle, and there's reasons, and it's social, and because you'd go out and you smoke with people and you meet people. Sure, then just go out and talk to them without a cigarette.
That's right.
If you want to be social, right? Like there's always just busting these excuses and talk about stinking.
The worst.
Cigarettes is the worst.
Yeah, I started smoking when I was a bartender just so I could get breaks. I noticed everyone else that was smoking, they could go get breaks. I'm like,
I heard that.
Yeah, that's 100% true. That's why I did it. So stupid, but I did. I only smoked for like 2 years, but so it wasn't too bad. Like one day I remember I took my pack and I flushed it down the toilet. But yeah, I mean, same thing. I think alcohol will follow suit shortly as far as just once it's no longer selling or it's more difficult to sell. I think the advertisers will either turn their back on it or something, because that's all it is. It's just the popularity is due in large part because you turn on TV and it's all over the place. It's celebrated. It's synonymous with everything as far as graduating, from weddings, from, when someone's born to when someone dies, there's alcohol in everything. And it's like, well, if we can, and that's a West Coast, that's a West thing, like they don't do that really in like the Eastern parts. Like they don't even drink, they don't partake. It's just something that America and the Western culture gets down on, but hopefully that'll change.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with obviously money. It's a huge industry. For anybody facing like unhealthy habits that they want to get rid of and they feel stuck in, whether it's alcohol or food or smoking or any other unhealthy habit, what advice would you give them to help turn the page?
Yeah, I think accountability is huge in life, but also like when you're just trying to get your head straight, like I think you should put it out there, and you could probably find somebody hopefully in your circle. If not, go find somebody that's not in your circle and get some advice and have them be your check. I think that's why AA works so well, because you have your sponsors, right? For my fitness, like again, if I didn't have my guy telling me what to do, I'm not, at this point, I've been working with him for 4 years. Like my diet guy, I know what I have to do, but if I don't like check in with him, I go off the reserve because like nobody's holding me accountable. No one's saying, hey, you need to do this. And so same exact thing. If you have somebody who, is responsible, at least that you've declared what your goal is, they can keep you in line. So that's the biggest goal, is declare it publicly, or if you want to be private, at least declare it to one person that's going to hold your feet to the fire. I'll
share a story here that my friends know, but I haven't shared publicly, about my nephew. It was around August of last year or July. He at the time's 13, and 13-year-old boy, he was challenging me a lot physically with like, I could do more push-ups than you, I can long jump. And I was like, okay, and let's go. And I would accept the challenge. I'm 40 years old, but I'm in good shape, and I beat him in the long jump. I beat him in the push-up challenge. And he was kind of like, man, if you just didn't drink so much, you'd be really fit. And I was like, ouch, it cut me deep. And he's like, just try 30 days. Don't drink. See if you get cut. And I was like, well, it's your aunt's birthday, and then I got a cruise and whatever. I had all these excuses, right? And I said, so yeah, now this isn't a good time. And then I thought about it, and I don't know if it was the same night or the next time I saw him. I go, okay, here's the deal. I'll do dry January. It's this way. It's in the future. I don't have to, I can plan or whatever. So my 13-year-old nephew was my accountability partner. He challenged me in a way which, hopefully he'll listen to this one day. I don't think he even knew he was doing. But yeah, with my history with alcohol, I had not drank for 30 days in my adult life. So it was a big deal for me to do this, right? So come January, it's time. And of course, I've got one friend's birthday, another friend coming. There's all these like immediate like social situations. You think it'd be easy. It was really hard for me. And full disclosure, there was 5 days I did drink. And it was funny, but because he was my little now 14-year-old accountability partner, I called him and I was like, here's the deal. I've got this friend and he's in town from across the country. Again, it sounds like such bullshit as I say it now, what an excuse it was, but I made the excuse. I called him and I got his permission, a 14-year-old boy, because I wanted to keep me accountable. And the trade-off, by the way, was I challenged him. He had to read 10 pages a day of a book that was not assigned by school, a personal choice book, because I wanted to instill the habit back in him. And sure enough, we did, and we both did it. And he read a book, a 300-page book, and it's something we still talk about today. And I can't wait to tell him one day how he helped reshape my relationship with alcohol by breaking that streak. Even though I didn't go the full 30 days, to go 20 days or so, and to give up the daily beer after work. That accountability was so huge, especially somebody who was important to me in my life. I wanted to make sure he saw I could do it, and vice versa. And I hope to instill the habit of reading in him. So yeah, I think that's critical. And
yeah, the 30 days is the hardest. I will say that. And when you get to it, like a certain point, like, I don't know, I'd say when I got past the 30 days, I was like, dude, this is easy peasy from here.
Yeah.
The first 30 days was definitely the hardest. Like, I don't know. Again, it's a lot of it is just like the social lubricant, just you want to hang out, you want to get loose with the boys, or just, some of my single buddies too, like they stress out about what it's like in the dating scene without being able to drink. And it's like, cause they're so used to it, it's their crutch.
Yeah.
But if you shake it for a couple of months, like, it's the opposite. Like the idea of being intoxicated is that idea kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. I like to have my bearings. I like to just be able to be sober. I like the idea that I might be sharper than anybody else in this room because everyone else is just, tying one back. So I don't know, like that flipped after a while. And, I don't even think about drinking anymore. When it used to consume me, it just went away.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was no longer a habit. And you're so right. Like there was so many positive things that came from it. The self-control, how confident I actually truly felt to be in full control of what I was saying and to observe others who maybe weren't. It's empowering. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So yeah, I mean, good advice. Anyone out there, accountability, I guess, to summarize what you just said, is if you're going to do something difficult, have an accountability partner.
That's in life with anything. I think like it doesn't hurt to publicly declare it, but at least make sure one person is there to hold your feet to the fire. Even if you know what you're doing, there's something to be said about having that accountability piece built in. I've had two of my like best friends. We met in a coaching group. We've been doing this for almost 3 or 4 years now. They both run real estate teams. One's in Washington, one's in California. And every morning every week, like Monday through Friday in the morning at 4 a.m, we have to check in on Marco Polo. It's like a video text messaging kind of app. Mm-hmm. Just, I'm up. We're always like half dead. Like, I'm up. And if we don't do it, like we get a 15-minute window. If we don't check in with each other, showing that we're up, starting our day, getting ready, I have to Venmo each of them $100. And I've had to do it a handful of times. They've paid me on a couple, but like, so we don't like doing that. You know what I mean? So it's just that piece in place where it's just like, it helps you get your ass up, get going at 4 a.m. And, these are two of my best friends in the world. They'd probably let it slide, but the fact that like, again, I'm forcing it on them, they're forcing it on me. Like, it just really does help me wake up and get going and attack the day. That accountability thing, I tell people all the time, like if you don't have it, you need to get it.
Yeah. What time do you go to bed?
I go to bed like 8, 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting 7-ish hours.
Depending. Yeah. I think that's going to go away in about 3 weeks when my second son gets here. We'll see. I might have to sleep in the other room, but some days I get more sleep, some days I get less, but like, make no mistake, I will be taking a nap sometimes if I don't get, I got a couch in my office.
Yeah. I mean, with the amount you have going on, your weightlifting, being a dad, running this team, obviously I think sleep is something you got to prioritize. When I hear these 4 a.m. challenges, I cringe a little bit because I've learned personally, it just makes me a worse person in my relationships, with my own self, and in work. I'm just not there energetically.
I wouldn't ever tell somebody, hey, wake up at 4 a.m. just to do it. Like, that took me about a year to get down to it. Increments of like 15 minutes for like a couple of weeks. And then I got, removed another 15 and just slowly inched my way down. But yeah, again, I go to bed at like 8, and I get my 8 hours. If I was going to bed at 11, I'm not that 4 a.m. guy no more. You know what I mean? That goes away. Like, first and foremost, you should be getting 7 to 8 hours. Like, unless you're like, you have something in you, very few of us do, like less than 1% where they can get by on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Other than that, literally it's a negative as far like, oh, you get more time in the day, but you're not efficient. If you're looking for like fitness, muscle growth occurs during the sleeping process. You're doing yourself a huge disservice. And then again, cognitively, like you're not efficient when you're working, and you're probably groggy. You're probably not as like cool to be around, all these things. So I don't, the whole thing, I wake up at this time, like, I don't care. Like, how many hours of sleep do you get? That's why I like that question.
Mm-hmm. So you've done a lot. You made a major change, I think you said, in your 30s with your fitness.
Yeah.
Okay. How old are you now?
39.
Okay. So you've been at it over 5 years, coming up on 10 years.
Yeah.
Where you got fit. Your business is booming, even in a down market. 150 to 250 deals a year is a very impressive number. Congratulations. Obviously, family's going good. You got a boy and another child on the way. So everything's good in that department. What's next for you?
This is kind of like we mentioned earlier, like this is like rebuilding, regrowth, a lot of new things happening in my company, but also like my family's growing, you know what I mean? So that's also kind of like starting over again in that capacity. Like, we have a 3-year-old and we kind of figured out that whole stage, and now we're starting over, with the infant and having to deal with those trials. I think it makes you stronger, just like in business. Like like I mentioned earlier, I have perspective now. I know what to look for. I know what to look out for. But as a husband and as a father now, same thing. I have perspective. I can see like, okay, how am I going to be the best father? How can I make myself the best husband, provider, partner for everybody involved? So for me, it's just rebuilding, regrowing, and trying to be better this time around. Rolling my sleeves up, getting back to work. The market's tough. There's not a ton of volume happening now. So for the past couple of years, and this was a mistake I made, I tried to exit production a little too early. I tried to just, focus on recruiting, training, and scaling the company. But they say, never delegate your core competency, which is something I did. I was always really good at selling houses, but it didn't like fill my cup. But the reality was, I don't deserve to have my cup filled yet. I'm not there. I tried to get out at 150, 200 transactions. That was a mistake. I shouldn't even think about it until 400 transactions. And even then, who knows? Because again, that's my core competency. And if you're a leader, how are you going to lead from behind? You're telling people what they got to be doing. You need to be in the trenches with them, and you need to show them what works and what doesn't work. Because the truth is too, in an evolving market like this, what worked last week may not work today. So if you haven't sold a house I don't care what you did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if you sold 1,000 houses, it's irrelevant today. So you need to get back in there, roll your sleeves up, get back to work. So that's what I'm doing this year.
It's terrific advice. I say the same thing as a leader. I want to be in production, because some agents might look at that as a negative thing, that their leader is in production and therefore competing with them. It's like, no, I'm in the trenches with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what's going on in the market. I know if you're what challenges you're facing, maybe if you're lying to me or not. I know what the excuses are. I know what the sellers are saying, and therefore I can be a better leader and a better coach. I've heard that before. I've known people who have gone out of production and not immediately, but soon regretted it and are now coming back into production. I don't know many people who got out of it, unless, like you said, they were on this really high level and perhaps had a residual of some sort. But not only did they lose money by getting out of production, but you start to lose clout as well as a leader. I think all good leaders want somebody that knows what it's like. Like back to football, the player's coach. A lot of former players make great coaches for that reason, because they know what it's like to be in the player's shoes. They're not playing anymore, but they understand the game. I mean, you've dropped a lot of gems, whether you're brand new or you're a leader who's growing. Your idea of regrowth and regeneration is a mindset. I pray that you keep the rest of your life. Having another kid, knowing I can do it better than the first one, knowing it's going to be different than the first one. Right. A friend once told me that having the second kid is not twice as hard. It's 3 times as hard.
Oh, man.
So good luck with
Thank
that.
you. Appreciate it.
Any parting words before we go into the same questions we ask everybody, which is our Quickfire Wisdom?
No parting words, man. This has been a lot of fun. Like, I love your, just that this is revolved around mindset and wellness. A lot of times in real estate, everyone just focused on transactions and volume. Like, you're going where it's arguably way more important. I attended this Zoom today with John Cheplack. He's probably #1 coach nationally. He charges like $2,000 for 20 minutes of his time. He works with the top agents, the top teams nationally. So he's the go-to guy. And he talked today about like mindset. That's what it's about. Like, if you have mastered your mindset, everything else falls into place. So I really appreciate kind of the concept and everything that's wrapped into this. It's great.
Thank you. That's appreciated. All right, let's move into Quickfire Wisdom.
All righty. Cool.
What's the one habit that's made the biggest difference in your life?
Weight training.
Weight training.
Should I dive in more to it?
Enough said. Okay. Go ahead.
Resistance training. You know what I mean? You get in there, break a sweat, get the endorphins going, clear the mind, and you prime the day.
Love it. Couldn't agree more. And I'm going to give a shout out to my brother, Dennis Coxen, who got me back on the weights last year, because he's right and you're right. What's your favorite quote or mantra that you live by?
One more. There's this book by Ed Milet. He's also like a very inspirational speaker. Basically just talks about the power of one more, and how essentially if you just do one more rep in the gym, one more phone call before work, one more I love you, all of these things just start to add up and it starts to be so impactful. So I always think in my head, if, you know, in terms of quotes, one more.
That's great. Unless it's one more beer.
That's right. That's right.
That's not good.
That's right.
One more of a good thing.
That's right.
Right on. One more. What is your favorite book?
Okay, favorite book would maybe be Arnold Schwarzenegger's Be Useful. It's like his 7 rules of advice. I'm a big Arnold Schwarzenegger guy. Oh, you got that?
You're the second person.
Maybe that was maybe I saw that on the way in here.
I love that. You're the second person to call it a book that was on the shelf.
That's you got a good collection. Good. I also like from like a non self-help. I like anything by Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. I think he's an amazing author. He's just everything he puts out is wonderful.
What's your favorite app for productivity?
Favorite app? I mean, honestly, it's just my Google Calendar. I mean, really, and it seems simple. That's not really an app. It is. And if you use it and you use it correctly, your business should be doing really well. If you don't use it, you're probably not doing that well.
I think the calendar app is the best app one can have in any sort of business and in life.
Yep.
Keep it organized. And last question, what's your go-to way to unwind after a busy, fulfilling day?
Yeah, no, this one's interesting. Yeah, every time, well, not every time. I've been toning it back, but jumping in the jacuzzi and smoking a little bit of hookah. Like I'll watch YouTube, I'll watch a little Joe Rogan, or I'll just unwind, just kind of like, not Rogan, but like brain dead stuff, just so I can turn it off and just smoke a little bit of hookah. And again, I don't drink, but that doesn't mean, I'm a saint.
I like it. That's awesome, man. It sounds wonderful. It's a good way to end the day. I'm a jacuzzi guy myself. Nice. And definitely helps with the sleep and recovery and relaxation.
Sure.
You're a hookah smoker, no cigars, just hookah?
I'll smoke cigars if I'm out with the boys, but like, it's not something that, I'm smoking at home. And then even the hookah stuff, like I probably do. My wife was telling me I need to tune it back or tone it down a little bit. But yeah, that's my one vice is hookah.
Yeah, I mean, I love, thanks for being honest, because sometimes, when we listen to podcasts and you hear these guests and, it's kind of an edited, filtered version of who they are. So thanks for being vulnerable and experiencing some of your little sins there, because everybody's got them, myself included. And, we're all doing our best, but also trying to enjoy life a little bit.
That's right. There's that balance, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mike, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Right. Before we close out today's episode, let's take a moment to pause. Take a deep breath in and let it out. In our conversation, Mike talked about the power of manufactured chaos, intentionally pushing yourself to grow so that when life throws real challenges at you, you're already strong enough to handle them. Think about that for a moment. Where in your life can you create challenge on your own terms? Maybe it's waking up earlier, pushing through one extra rep at the gym. Maybe it's making a call you've been avoiding, or just sitting in silence instead of scrolling. Growth isn't about waiting for struggle to find you. It's about stepping into it and coming out stronger. Now, in honor of Mike's favorite mantra, give me one more deep breath. As you exhale, release whatever resistance you're holding on to. You're more capable than you know. Lean into discomfort, because on the other side is strength, confidence, and clarity. Thanks for being here, and until next time, keep moving forward. Thanks for joining me on this journey today. I'm Michael Coxen, and this is The Mindful Agent. Join me next time as we continue to explore the intersection of real estate, health, and mindfulness. Looking to grow your real estate career? At Magenta Real Estate, we put you first. Our entire business is built around your well-being and your success. With 100% commission, powerful marketing tools, and a supportive community that truly cares. Success starts within. Visit joinmagenta.realestate today.